John, I often say to myself that I would like to believe in God, but then I think, what is this God that I want to believe in? And then I think that I really don't mean God in some traditional sense. I mean something that's beyond the normal physical world. Now, I don't know if that hope is in vain or what, but I do know that I want to try to identify and think about what this ultimate thing may be. Now, you've distinguished between theism, a traditional approach to God, and what you call ultimism. So I want to know what you mean by ultimism.
Okay. Ultimism is the broader notion of the two. Theism is a narrower notion. By ultimism, I mean the claim that there is a reality that is ultimate in three different ways. It's not just the vague idea that there's something ultimate. It's got a bit of content, at least this much, that there are three sorts of ultimacy. One is metaphysical ultimacy. By that I mean that this reality, should it exist, would be the deepest fact about the nature of things. And so the most fundamental explanation, for example, would be given in terms of the reality of this, if indeed it is metaphysically ultimate. But it's not just metaphysically ultimate. I mean, at that point, you've still got something where, science and religion might be together. They're both looking for something metaphysically ultimate. But I think that what distinguishes...
The universe could be ultimate.
Right. Or some basic physical fact. Yeah. But where they start to diverge is when it comes to the second sort of ultimacy, that I've called axiological.
Values.
It refers to value. And the deepest possible value. The sort of thing that gives sense to what you see in churches and synagogues and mosques when people are worshiping their understanding of the ultimate, or, the being that they think exemplifies the ultimate reality.
But you're saying it doesn't have to be a being. It can be just some ultimate value.
Well, that's why I want to use the word reality very generally, so that it allows for many, many different ways of being filled out. And the third sort of ultimacy, which continues, to move religion away from anything that science might be concerned with, is what I call soteriological ultimacy. I borrowed a word there from Christianity, even though I'm applying it more generally. Soteriology is the study of salvation. Well, if you call it salvation, you could call it enlightenment, liberation, wholeness.
Connecting to this ultimate, if there is an ultimate.
That's right. That there should be, if religion is true, there should be some sort of ultimate good possible for us, for humanity in the world, in relation to this reality. So by ultimism, I mean the claim that there is a reality that is metaphysically, axiologically, and soteriologically ultimate.
So
that's still a
fundamental reality, something that has value-based and something that we can connect with.
Something that's unsurpassably valuable, and something and somehow that value can be communicated to us.
Okay.
Because it could be something that's just, off on its own, no connection to us at all, right? But religion says that it's connected to us, or that there's some possible connection that can be made. It's still a very general idea, and that's important. Theism, traditional theism, is the claim that there is a personal ultimate, and that adds the notion of personality. Because when we say that there's something metaphysically, axiologically, soteriologically ultimate, we're not saying that it is a person who is ultimate in this way, and yet traditional theism says that. Traditional theism is the claim that there is an ultimate reality that is personal. That's most fundamentally, as I understand it, what theism says. And so it's not a surprise that theism thinks of this person as being rather impressive, as being the creator of the universe. There's the metaphysical ultimacy. And as having all these omni properties, omnipotent, omniscient, omnibenevolent, all power, omnipotent, all knowledge, omniscient, all goodness, omnibenevolence. Why all these omni attributes, you might ask? Well, it's because it's only if God has those sorts of attributes, the traditional theistic God, that it would be worthy of worship, that it would be unsurpassably great in the way that an object of religious concern must be. And loving as well, making available a kind of relationship. So this is soteriological ultimacy cashed out in personal terms. So theism represents one way of filling out this broader idea of ultimism. But the two are distinct. I mean, theism entails ultimism. That is, theism can only be true if ultimism is. But it doesn't work the other way around. Right. Ultimism can be true even if theism is not.
Theism is a subset of ultimism.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be true.
Right. And in fact,
if
ultimism,
theism is true, ultimism has to be true.
Yes.
If ultimism is true, theism does not
need not be true. Right. Ultimism you could take as really being equivalent to just a large set of possibilities connected with, either or. It's what philosophers call a disjunction. Mm-hmm. This or this or this or this. And one of those is traditional theism. Right. So even if you've ruled out traditional theism, as I think you probably can do philosophically, even if you are an atheist, as I am, in connection with traditional theism, you might still be open to the possibility of some other.
Because you're an atheist, that means you are atheism, which means you reject a personalized, ultimate God, as we've called it. But being an atheist doesn't mean that you're an absolute, what we would say, naturalist or physicalist. Right. Materialist means that you would admit there may be some other ultimate thing that you are not sure of.
There are forms of religion, forms of religion like Buddhism, that at least in some forms are atheistic in the same way that I'm atheistic. Mm-hmm. They deny the existence of a personal ultimate. But that doesn't mean that there isn't some other understanding of the divine.
Is the fact that theism is in general a person, is that the only distinction between theism and ultimism? Or are there other characteristics? Because you listed all these omnis, for example, all the attributes.
Yeah, and those all have...
You can have all those attributes without necessarily being a person.
No, I think that you need to see them as different aspects of the personhood of the traditional theist's God.
But is your ultimism omnipotent?
No, it wouldn't make any sense to speak of the ultimate reality in that generic way as omnipotent, because omnipotence, as I understand it anyway, is about power that can be exercised intentionally by a person.
I think you're giving it a tighter definition than one might. I mean, you can have an ultimism that has some ultimate power, but in a non-intentional way. It could be just flowing forth. I mean, the laws of physics can have an ultimate power, if that's what it is. Who knows?
Sure. If that's what you mean by power, if you're going to take power more generally, you might speak of some kind of energy. Then it might be related to the soteriological side of ultimism. That which is connected to us in some way we might call it a kind of power, might have some sort of power. I mean, there are other ways of talking about ultimate realities that do lead people to speak of power or of force. There's some link between what some people call the force and what somebody might take as a version of ultimism.
So these three aspects of ultimism that you have, the metaphysical foundations of reality, the ultimate value, and the connection, those don't necessarily have to go together. I mean, reality could be such that there is only a metaphysical. In fact, that I would think is required. There has to be something for one reason or another. We know that there is ultimate, existence. It could be a brute fact. There could be reasons for it. But there is a metaphysical ultimate.
At least all inquirers, including all those naturalistic scientists, will assume for the sake of inquiry that there's something metaphysically ultimate. They're trying to find it.
The other two may not exist at all. Yeah. The other two may be, if you're talking about value, that may be a total construct of human existence. So we're sure of the one, we're unsure of the other, but to have a real ultimate, a
religious ultimate,
you need all three.
You need all three. That's what I claim, yeah. And that's what distinguishes ultimism as a religious concept. And theism is one way of understanding ultimism. You could use the word God to refer to either or both, more narrowly or more broadly.